My parents told me I had to give up my dream to save their lives, but it was all a lie. They stole my life savings, my entire future, and they thought I'd just let it go. I didn't call the police. I did something much smarter. I made them believe they had won. That was my first mistake, because what came next? They never saw coming. My name is Amelia Carter. What I am about to tell you is a secret I have carried for 2 years. It is a story I was warned never to tell. But tonight, the rain is hitting my windows like 1,000 tiny fists, and the man I thought was my friend is sitting in a parked car across the street, watching my apartment. He has been there for 3 hours. He thinks I don't know, but I know everything now. I know how to watch. I learned from the best, from the people who taught me that love is a weapon and trust is a trap. This is not just a story about money. It's about the sound a dream makes when it shatters. It's about the cold, meticulous work of putting it back together, piece by bloody piece. They took $150,000 from me, my life savings. The price to get it back was my family, my innocence, and a part of my soul I will never get back. But I got it back, and this is how. It began on a Tuesday that felt like any other. I was 23, buzzing with a nervous, joyful energy. In my hands, I held a thick, official-looking packet, the lease agreement for 1,123 Maple Avenue. A perfect, sunlit corner space with big windows for my bakery, Amelia's Rise. My life's dream, crystallized on paper. I had an appointment to sign it at 3 p.m. That morning, as a final, celebratory act, I logged into my bank's website to transfer the security deposit and first month's rent. A simple, triumphant click. The page loaded. I blinked. The numbers were wrong. I refreshed the page. My breath hitched, a sharp, painful pull in my chest. The balance, which should have read $150,327.18, read $327.18. A high-pitched ringing started in my ears, drowning out the sounds of the coffee shop around me. This was a glitch, a system error. Banks had those. My fingers, gone clumsy and cold, navigated to the transaction history. There they were. 2 lines that felt like physical blows. Transfer to external account, minus $80,000. Date, 5 days ago. Transfer to external account, minus $70,000. Date, 4 days ago. I fumbled for my phone, my vision blurring. I called the bank's 800 number, my voice a thin, reedy thing I didn't recognize. I gave my details, my mother's maiden name, my social security number, all the keys to my kingdom. "I'm sorry, Miss Carter," the representative said, her voice a practiced blend of sympathy and distance. "Those were authorized electronic transfers from your joint savings account." "Authorized by who?" I demanded, my panic sharpening into a blade. A pause, the click of a keyboard. "The authorizing party on the transfers is listed as the secondary account holder, Richard Carter." My father. The world did not go black. It went horrifically, hyper-detailed clear. The grime on the rim of my coffee cup. A cracked tile on the floor. The too loud laughter from the table next to me. My father. My dad, who had helped me open that account when I was 16, just to help you manage things, sweetheart. Who had stayed on it for emergencies. This was the emergency. My next call was to my parents. My mother answered on the second ring. "Amelia, hi honey, I was just thinking about you." "Mom," my voice was flat dead. "Where is my money?" The silence on the other end was profound. It wasn't just an absence of sound, it was a listening, calculating silence. Then, a muffled hand over the receiver, urgent whispers I couldn't decipher. My father's voice came on, too loud, too hearty. "Amelia, what's this about money?" "The $150,000 that vanished from my account last week, Dad, that money, where is it?" He sighed, a heavy, performative sound. Okay, calm down, we can explain. We had to borrow it. It's a temporary situation. A loan. A loan? You didn't ask, you just took it." "We were going to tell you," my mother interjected, her voice pleading on the extension. "It was an emergency. Your father, we made a bad investment. We owed people, Amelia, dangerous people. They were threatening us. We had to pay them off or worse. We used your savings to make them go away. We'll pay you back, every single penny. We just need a little time." The story spilled out. A shadowy investment in a commercial property, silent partners who turned out to be criminals, whispers of broken knees and burnt-down houses. They painted a picture of desperation, of two terrified parents protecting their home and, by extension, me. They used the words family and protect and love like shields. I was crying now, hot, humiliating tears in the middle of the public coffee shop. That was for my bakery. I've been saving since I was 16, you knew that. And your dream is important to us. My father boomed, his tone shifting to one of wounded authority. Do you think we wanted this? We're ashamed, but family helps family in a crisis. We'll make a promissory note. It'll be official. You'll get your money back with interest. Numb, I agreed to go to their house. I drove there in a fog, the unsigned lease agreement a dead weight on the passenger seat. Their home, a comfortable suburban two-story, looked placid, unchanged. No boarded windows, no sinister black cars parked nearby. My mother's prized roses were blooming. It didn't look like a house under siege. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but not fearful. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed, but from crying or lack of sleep, I couldn't tell. My father was pacing, not cowering. He handed me a single sheet of paper printed from their computer. A promissory note. It promised repayment of $150,000 over 5 years, with a vague mention of applicable interest. Sign this, he said, pushing a pen toward me. It makes it legal. It shows we're serious. Something cold and hard, the first seed of my new self, settled in my gut. This flimsy piece of paper was for their protection, not mine. It was a tool to placate me, to create a paper trail of a loan instead of a theft. I need to think about it, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I folded the paper without signing it and put it in my purse. The look that passed between them was not relief, but frustration. That night, in the tomb-like silence of my apartment, grief paralyzed me. I lay on the floor for hours, emptied of tears. My future was gone. The beautiful, fragrant dream of Amelia's rise had been dismantled, brick, by the very hands that had once built my childhood forts. But as dawn broke, the paralysis melted, burned away by a new, fierce emotion. A suspicious, clarifying rage. Their story had holes. Dangerous criminals don't give receipts. People terrified for their lives don't offer promissory notes. I needed to see the truth. I started digging. I called the county recorder's office. No liens on my parents' house, no recent mortgages. I drove past the troubled investment property, a small downtown condo. The tenants were bringing in groceries, laughing. It looked fine. Then I turned to the digital world, a place where people's vanity often outs their lies. My mother's Facebook page was a curated gallery of middle-class contentment. But there, in the comments under my Aunt Laura's post about a luxury spa weekend, was my mother's reply. Looks incredible. Counting the days until our cruise, the Mediterranean sun, here we come. My heart thudded against my ribs. I clicked on my father's profile. He was a member of a group called Corvette Enthusiasts of the Tri-State area. His latest post, timestamped 3 days after the $80,000 transfer, was a photo of a sleek, black, brand-new sports car steering wheel, the iconic logo unmistakable. The caption, "Dreams do come true. Welcome to the family, sweetheart." The screen blurred. The rage wasn't hot anymore. It was a glacial, spreading ice in my veins. There were no dangerous men, no desperate debts. There was a new Corvette and a Mediterranean cruise. They had stolen my bakery and traded it for a convertible and a tan. The promissory note was a sham. The story was a fabrication. This wasn't a desperate loan. It was a calculated, selfish theft. They had looked at my life's work and seen a down payment on their upgraded retirement. The decision to go to the police felt like stepping off a cliff. I was about to criminalize my own parents. The social, emotional, and moral weight of it was crushing. But the image of that steering wheel, of my mother's comment about azure seas, was seared behind my eyes. They hadn't just broken my heart, they had broken the law. The police station was a monument to fluorescent light and low-grade anxiety. I asked for the financial crimes unit. Detective Maria Alvarez met me in a small, cluttered interview room. She was in her 40s, with sharp, intelligent eyes and a demeanor that was both weary and deeply attentive. I told her everything, my voice trembling at first, then growing stronger as I laid out the facts. The savings, the transfers, their story, the social media evidence. I showed her the unsigned promissory note. She steepled her fingers. "Amelia, this is serious. If what you're saying is accurate, this is grand theft, a felony." But the joint account, that's a significant hurdle. Legally, they had access. We have to prove criminal intent that they never intended to repay you. This note, she tapped the paper, even unsigned, suggests otherwise. It's their word against yours. We need tangible proof of where the money actually went. It went into a Corvette and a cruise, I said, desperation creeping in. We need bank records, wire transfers, receipts. We can't get those without a subpoena, and for a subpoena, I need more than social media photos. I need something that shows they knowingly deceived you for personal gain. She opened a case file, but I could see the caution in her eyes. The system moved slowly, and the joint account was a shield my parents were hiding behind. I left feeling deflated. The law was a maze, and they were already steps ahead. I needed a guide. With the last $327 from my gutted account, I paid for a 1-hour consultation with a civil attorney, Linda Jenkins. Her office was all modern glass and steel, a stark contrast to the worn police station. Miss Jenkins listened without pity, her pen scratching notes on a legal pad. "The criminal case is about punishment," she said bluntly. "Our goal is restitution, getting your money back. They're spending it fast. We need to file a civil lawsuit for conversion, that's the civil term for theft, and immediately seek a temporary restraining order and an attachment on their assets. We freeze the car, the travel bookings, anything we can trace before they're sold or disappear." "How do we trace it?" I asked. "We need their bank account numbers. The police will get them eventually with a subpoena, but that takes time. We need to be creative." A dangerous idea began to form, born from Detective Alvarez's words. "We need something that shows they knowingly deceived you." I had to make them believe they had won. The performance of my life began that evening. I called my parents, my voice thick with feigned defeat. "I've been thinking, you're my parents. I can't fight with you. This is killing me. Maybe we can work with the note. Can we talk, a real talk?" The relief on the other end was palpable. They invited me for dinner the next night. Walking into their house was like walking onto a stage. The set was familiar, but every actor was playing a part. My mother embraced me a little too tightly. My father clapped me on the back. The smell of pot roast, my comfort food, filled the air. The cruelty of the gesture almost broke my composure. Over dinner, they performed their newfound relief. "We're so glad you've come around, Amelia," my mother gushed. "Family is everything." "It is," I said, forcing a small smile. "So, you really are okay now? The dangerous people are gone?" "Gone," my father said, taking a sip of expensive wine I'd never seen in their house before. "Paid off. It's a fresh start. I saw your new car online, Dad. It's beautiful." His face lit up with pure, unadulterated pride. A 2024 Corvette Stingray, full options, handles like a dream, paid cash for it. Once that debt cloud lifted, we decided to use a little of our own nest egg to celebrate. "My nest egg," I screamed inside my head. I cut my meat with careful precision. "And Mom, a cruise?" "Oh, Amelia, it's the trip of a lifetime. Greece, Italy, the Adriatic, all booked and paid for, first-class cabin," she beamed. "We've worked hard, we deserve it." I nodded, swallowing bile with the food. "You do. I'm happy for you." The words were ash in my mouth. After dessert, my father produced the promissory note again. This time, I signed it. As my pen scratched the paper, I felt like I was signing away my old, trusting self. They smiled, the tension finally draining from their shoulders. They had the signed note. They had my apparent submission. The threat was neutralized. What they didn't have was any idea that in my purse, my phone's voice memo app had been recording for the past 90 minutes. They didn't know that my surrender was a tactical retreat. The next morning, I delivered the recording to Detective Alvarez. They admit, in their own voices, to paying cash for a luxury car and a vacation immediately after the money left my account, I said. They call it their nest egg. They say the debt is gone. This proves the emergency was a lie. Detective Alvarez listened, a grim smile touching her lips. "This changes things, Amelia. This is evidence of deception. I can take this to a judge today for a subpoena on their financials." Simultaneously, Miss Jenkins filed the civil lawsuit in county court. The paperwork was dense and terrifying, alleging conversion, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. Along with it, she filed an ex parte motion for a temporary restraining order and prejudgment attachment. In simple terms, She asked a judge to freeze their specific assets: the VIN number of the Corvette, the booking numbers for the cruise and timeshare, immediately, without warning them first, on the grounds that they would liquidate them if tipped off. The legal system, when spurred, could move with startling speed. By that afternoon, a judge had signed both the criminal subpoenas and the civil freeze order. The storm hit my parents the following day. I was at Miss Jenkins's office when she got the call from the sheriff's department. The restraining order and asset attachment had been served concurrently at their home and at the dealership where the Corvette was being detailed. The subpoenas for their bank records were delivered to their financial institutions. My phone began to vibrate incessantly. First, a stream of frantic texts from my mother. "Amelia, what is happening? Sheriff's deputies are here with papers. They're freezing our accounts. They're taking the car. Call me, please." Then my father's calls started. I let the first one go to voicemail. His voice, a roar of pure, unvarnished fury, filled the tiny speaker. "You treacherous little bitch. After everything we've done for you, you set us up. That recording, you'll pay for this. We will destroy you. You think you're smart? You're dead to us. Dead." I saved the message. Every venomous word was a gift. Detective Alvarez's subpoenaed records came back a week later. She called me in. The money trail was a map of my betrayal. The $80,000 transfer had gone directly to Premier Auto Group. The $70,000 had been split. $25,000 to Luxury Voyages, Inc., $15,000 to Seaside Timeshares, and the remaining $30,000 had been moved into a new high-yield savings account in their names only. There were no payments to any mysterious individuals or entities. No debts retired. Just pure, unadulterated luxury spending. "This," Detective Alvarez said, pointing at the paper, "is grand larceny. The DA is ready to press charges." The criminal charges were filed: grand theft in the first degree, a Class B felony. The news of their arrest was a small, shocking item in the local paper. Local accountant and wife charged with felony theft from daughter. The shame was now public. The civil case, however, was where the real financial pressure mounted. With the Corvette impounded and the travel bookings frozen, they were trapped. They couldn't sell the assets to raise money for a defense lawyer. Their own accounts were tied up in the freeze. The walls were closing in. Their attorney, a man named Mr. Dryden with a perpetually weary expression, contacted Miss Jenkins. He wanted to discuss a global resolution. The mediation was held in a neutral conference room at the courthouse. The air was cold and smelled of lemon polish and dread. My parents entered separately from me. They looked like ghosts of their former selves, smaller, older, stripped of their suburban confidence. My mother's eyes were hollow. My father's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle twitching. They did not look at me. Mr. Dryden laid out the offer. In exchange for me writing a letter to the district attorney affirming that full restitution was my primary goal, and that I sought a reduced sentence, his clients would agree to a full and immediate financial settlement. They would sign over the title to the Corvette, which would be sold at auction, authorize the release of all frozen travel funds, and liquidate a portion of their retirement account to make up the full $150,000 sum, to be wired to me within 30 days. A civil judgment would be entered against them for the amount, guaranteeing repayment if they faltered. "My clients acknowledge a serious error in judgment and wish to make their daughter whole," Dryden said, the words clearly tasting bitter. Miss Jenkins looked at me. "Amelia, this is a very good offer. It guarantees the return of your capital. The criminal trial is not a sure thing. Juries can be unpredictable with family disputes. This is the safest path to your bakery." I looked across the table at the two strangers who had raised me. The fury was still there, a cold ember in my chest, but it was tempered now by an immense, weary sadness. I didn't want them to rot in prison. I wanted my dream back. "I have conditions," I said, my voice clear in the quiet room. "First, the money in my account in 30 days, not a day later. Second, a public apology. Not a regret for a misunderstanding. A written statement, signed by both of you, admitting you stole my life savings to fund personal luxuries and that you lied to me to cover it up. You will deliver it to me, and I may choose to use it as I see fit." My father's head snapped up, his eyes blazing with hatred. "You want to humiliate us further? You humiliated yourselves. I said quietly. "You stole from your child. This is the consequence. Take it or take your chances with a jury." My mother began to cry, soft, helpless sobs. My father stared at the polished table, his shoulders slumping in defeat. The fight left him all at once. The shield of parenthood had shattered, leaving only two frail, guilty people exposed. "We accept," he whispered. The paperwork was signed in a flurry of initials and signatures. The Corvette was sold at a police auction. The cruise and timeshare were canceled, the funds recovered. The remaining balance came from their 401k. On the 29th day, a wire transfer hit my new, solely owned bank account. $150,000. The apology letter arrived by certified mail. It was brief and sterile, but it contained the necessary words. "We, Richard and Diane Carter, knowingly and wrongfully took the life savings of our daughter, Amelia Carter, amounting to $150,000. We used these funds for our own personal benefit and lied to her about the reason for taking the money. We are deeply and truly sorry for our actions and the profound betrayal we have committed." I held the paper, expecting vindication. I felt only a hollow finality. In criminal court, armed with my letter of restitution, the DA offered a plea deal, reduced to a Class A misdemeanor of theft of property. No prison time. 5 years of probation, 500 hours of community service each, and a permanent criminal record. They took it. The story was over. I had one. I had my money, my justice, and a written confession. I also had no family, a heart scarred by betrayal, and a name that was now whispered about in our small town. The following year was a journey of quiet reclamation. Therapy helped me untangle the knots of guilt and anger. I moved to a new city, a place with no memories in the pavement. I found a space for rent, not just a shop, but a beautiful, airy corner lot with original brick walls and light that poured in like honey. I named it without hesitation, Amelia's Rise. The work was all-consuming, healing in its physicality, selecting equipment, testing recipes, painting walls. The ghost of the old dream was slowly given new, solid form. I hired a small, loyal staff. A college student named Jake with a talent for sourdough, and a no-nonsense retired baker named Margaret who became a surrogate grandmother. Opening day was a bright, crisp Saturday in autumn. The morning sun illuminated the gleaming display cases filled with croissants, muffins, artisan loaves, and my signature cardamom cinnamon rolls. The air was thick with the sacred smell of yeast and sugar and hope. I didn't have a big crowd. No ribbon cutting. But the people who mattered were there. My therapist, who had become a friend, Margaret and Jake. A few friendly neighbors I'd met while building out the shop. As I unlocked the door and turned the sign to open, a profound peace settled over me. The anxiety, the lingering fear, the echoes of my father's shouted threats. They were still there, but they were quiet now, drowned out by the present reality of my dream, made real by my own two hands. The first customer was an elderly man with a kind face. He bought a loaf of rye bread and a black coffee. "New beginnings, eh?" he said with a smile. "Yes," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Yes, they are." The bakery found its rhythm. It became a neighborhood staple. I worked harder than I ever had, but it was a labor of love, not desperation. The money in the bank was mine, earned and defended. Every satisfied customer felt like a quiet victory. Then, 6 months after opening, the past whispered back. A familiar face started appearing at a corner table every Thursday morning. A man in his late 20s, clean-cut, reading the paper. He always ordered a plain coffee and a pain au chocolat. He never bothered me, but his presence was a subtle dissonant note. I couldn't place him until one day, he looked up as I was refilling his cup, and I saw a faint, unmistakable resemblance around the eyes. He was my cousin, Evan, my father's brother's son. We hadn't seen each other since we were teenagers. My family had closed ranks after the scandal, painting me as a vindictive monster. What was he doing here? One Thursday, he lingered until the morning rush died down. He approached the counter, his demeanor awkward. "Amelia, hi, Evan. The bakery it's great, really." He shifted his weight. "Look, I'm not here to cause trouble. My dad, he doesn't know I'm here, but I heard what happened, the whole story. I'm sorry, what they did was unforgivable." I just watched him, my guard up. "Thank you." He took a deep breath. "There's something you should know. After the settlement, your dad, he's not doing well. The shame, the debt from the retirement account, it's broken him. And my dad, your Uncle Frank, he's angry, really angry. At you. He says you ruined his brother's life. He says you haven't heard the last of this. A cold trickle of dread traced my spine. What does that mean? I don't know specifics. He drinks too much and he rants. But he said something last week about financial records and the IRS. He was muttering about how no little bitch gets away with destroying this family. I think he might try to cause problems for you. A tax audit maybe. Something to harass you. My mind raced. The bakery was my life, but it was a fragile new entity. A malicious audit, even a baseless one, could consume time, money, and reputation. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Evan looked down. Because what they did was wrong, and because I remember the cousin who taught me how to make mud pies, you don't deserve more trouble. He slid a napkin across the counter with a phone number scribbled on it. I'll let you know if I hear anything concrete. Be careful, Amelia. He left, and the warm, safe space of my bakery felt suddenly vulnerable. The past wasn't past. It was a hungry thing, and it was still watching. I called Detective Alvarez, now retired but still a friend. I told her about Evan's warning. Her advice was practical. Document everything. Every receipt, every invoice, every tax form. Run your business like you're already under audit. And, Amelia, consider a restraining order if any direct contact is made. This is about harassment now. I also called Miss Jenkins. She was livid. This is witness intimidation and harassment stemming from a settled legal matter. If he so much as files a frivolous report, we sue him for tortious interference and malicious prosecution. Keep me informed. The next few weeks were tense. Every official-looking letter in the mail made my heart jump. Every unfamiliar customer got a second glance. I was living the victory, but I was also back on guard. Then, the first shot was fired. I received an official notice from the city's health department, citing an anonymous complaint about vermin infestation and improper food storage at Amelia's Rise. An inspection was scheduled for 48 hours later. It was a transparent attack. My bakery was pristine, but inspections are stressful, and a failure, even on a minor point, could be leveraged into public trouble. I didn't panic. I called Margaret and Jake. We spent a night doing a deep clean that went far beyond our already strict standards. I prepped all my vendor invoices and temperature logs. When the inspector, a stern-faced woman, arrived, I greeted her calmly and handed her a file of documentation before she even asked. The inspection was thorough. She found nothing. As she prepared to leave, she said offhandedly, "You know, we get these anonymous complaints sometimes from competitors or disgruntled individuals. Your records are impeccable. Have a good day." It was a small victory, but it confirmed the war wasn't over. Uncle Frank was making his move. The second attack was more sinister. Late one night, my bakery's Instagram account was flooded with dozens of fake one-star reviews. The reviews were vicious and specific. Food poisoning, found a hair in my scone, owner is a known criminal. They appeared within minutes of each other, clearly a coordinated bot attack. This was a direct assault on my livelihood. My social media reputation was vital for a new business. I felt a hot surge of the old rage. They wouldn't stop. They wanted to burn down what I had built. I took screenshots of everything. I reported the reviews as fraudulent to the platform. Then I drafted an email to Uncle Frank. I didn't send it to him. I sent it to his wife, my Aunt Carol, who had always been kind, and to Evan. The email was simple. It contained the screenshots of the fake reviews and the clean bill of health from the city inspector. The text read, "I am aware of the ongoing harassment campaign. The anonymous health department complaint and these fake reviews are transparent and illegal. I have filed police reports for criminal harassment and cyberbullying. All evidence, including the source of the bot network, which can be traced, has been forwarded to my attorney and to Detective Maria Alvarez. The next step will be a civil lawsuit for damages and a criminal complaint naming the perpetrator. This ends now." I was bluffing about tracing the bots, but it sounded credible. The response was silence for 2 days. Then, the fake reviews disappeared as suddenly as they had arrived. A week later, I received a letter from a lawyer representing Frank Carter. It was a single sentence. "My client will cease and desist from any and all contact with you or your business." The siege was lifted. The final, desperate claw of the past had been broken. Tonight, as I watch the unmarked car across the street, a private investigator hired by a paranoid Uncle Frank, perhaps, or just a coincidence, I am not afraid. I am prepared. I have my documents. I have my lawyer on speed dial. I have a security system. I have survived a betrayal that should have destroyed me. I have outmaneuvered thieves and fought off harassers. I have built something beautiful from the ashes. The man in the car finally starts his engine and drives away. Maybe he was just lost. Maybe he was a final, fading echo. I turn away from the window and look around my apartment, filled with the comforting clutter of a life lived fully. On my bookshelf, next to my favorite cookbooks, sits a small, framed piece of paper. It's the lease for 1,123 Maple Avenue, the one I never signed. I keep it as a reminder of the dream that was almost stolen. But next to it is a new photo. It's of my bakery, Amelia's Rise, on a bustling Saturday morning. The line is out the door. The sun is shining. And in the center of the frame, behind the counter, is me. Flower on my cheek, a genuine smile on my face, handing a box of pastries to a smiling child. Revenge was not sweet. It was bitter, complex medicine. But the life I built after, the peace I forged in the quiet mornings of my own shop, the pride of a perfect loaf coming out of my own oven, that is sweet. That is a rise worth every heartbreaking, terrifying step of the journey. I am Amelia Carter, and this is not just a story of how I got my money back. This is the story of how I got myself back, and that, more than any check or legal victory, was the only treasure worth having.